how your family felt during that extended time?
We had an hour that we were able to be with her in the hospital before she was going to be taken back for surgery, and it was just a very emotional moment, knowing that that was going to be the last time that we were going to see her technically alive. But knowing that she was going to be a donor gave us hope that one day that we could meet the recipients, and to know that she was going to be living on in them was a wonderful feeling. It was the silver lining in a tragic event, so yeah.
From when they talked to your parents about donation till when you had that hour before surgery, did you guys stay at the hospital during the donation process? Or what did that look like for your family?
So we pretty much, once they took her back for surgery, we were done, and we left and just sort of did our thing. So we didn't stay when she was taken back. So
Was there anything, was there any part of hesitation in either your mom or your dad or yourself about donation?
absolutely not. No hesitation whatsoever. We knew when Jenny and I had talked about it, that when we were signing up for our driver's license, we're like, we're not going to need these anymore, and we can help people, so why would you not sign up? There was no hesitation whatsoever for her to be a donor. That's what she wanted. We knew that. We had talked about it before, so absolutely no hesitation whatsoever.
If you were to put yourself back in those shoes and she hadn't been a donor, or she hadn't been registered as a donor, can you think of anything you would want to tell another family about making a difficult decision?
It's one of the selfless, most amazing gifts that you can give to somebody else. Yes, you're in a tragic event, and for me, it was one of those things that I know that she was going to live on. She wasn't going to die today. She was too young to just stop living. So she was going to live on, and that is something that you can't replace. For anybody that is doubting or having any sort of hesitation, just know that this is an amazing gift that you can give to somebody and their family and their friends. They live on, and it's beautiful and it's wonderful.
Tell me about, by the way, that was awesome. I was like, can we just say that was awesome? You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Tell me about, you're talking about how beautiful it was and that this gift is awesome. Relate that to me. Tell me why this has been important to your family. So kind of the aftermath through your grieving process. You will never stop grieving your sister's death.
Yeah,
Tell me
absolutely.
why donation has changed your family.
I was one of those that I was in a severe depression after she died, and we had gotten the letters that she had saved 3 lives, and it was one of those things like, do you think we'll ever be able to meet them? I would love to meet them because she lives on. And we got to meet one of her kidney recipients first, and my heart just felt so full. And I was so happy that she was able to help somebody. Of course, I was sad, but at the same time, it was amazing knowing that somebody who was on dialysis and not being able to live a full life could be disconnected from a machine and live on and do what they want to do and just live their life, because my sister made a decision when she was 15 on her permit that yes, she wanted to be an organ donor, I felt so grateful and so in awe that my sister was able to save people and able to make a change for somebody that who knows what would have happened if she hadn't made that decision.
How would it be
Interrupt
different?
you.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you.
You like
Have
of course.
Because you're
Ooh,
gonna be
I got
over
one
here.
in my hand.
Okay,
Anybody
okay.
else?
Would your grief process have been different?
Absolutely.
Tell me about that.
There was a change when I got to meet her. And I felt different. I felt there was a happiness in me that I hadn't felt yet. And knowing that there was still 2 more people that I could meet and their families. Just absolutely wonderful knowing that she was able to help these people and the families and the friends just because she made a decision when she was 15. Like, yeah, I'm going to give up my organs. It'll be fine.
When you were at the hospital, and were you in the conversation with the doctor after they pronounced you dead?
I was not.
You
No.
weren't, okay, but
No.
you were at the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
What do you remember about what your parents told you about that conversation, going from talking to the doctors to then being approached for donation?
So I wasn't really involved in any way. My parents, they were trying to protect me. I mean, this has been 12 years ago, and so with it being as fresh as it was, they figured I didn't need any more quote-unquote trauma. But I wish that I had been involved. I really do. But as far as them coming back to me, they told me, not at the hospital, but they told me later that they said yes to everything except for bone. They said that they couldn't do that. And my response was, well, why not? You should have been able to give everything. That's what she would have wanted. But that's hindsight, so. Yeah.
She just brought up an interesting nudge, a tissue nudge. Super interesting.
Was there ever a moment, whether it was at the hospital or after the surgery, where in the moment it didn't feel so promising and grateful and amazing that it does maybe now? Where there was a struggle or...
I think the biggest struggle was just knowing that my sister's not going to be here anymore, physically in her body. She's not going to be here anymore. So that's a struggle to handle. But I just kept having the feeling of she's not going to die today. She's going to live on through organ donation. And that was something that brought me a lot of comfort. Yeah, the biggest struggle was just the fact that she wasn't going to be here in her physical body anymore. But the actual doing the donation, yeah, it was a no-brainer at all.
So some families worry about, even though they understand brain death, they still worry about their loved one being uncomfortable or on a ventilator longer. Can you talk at all about whether you worried about your sister waiting for recovery, or whether that was a peaceful process or an okay process? Just about what would you say to a family that was worried about those next steps as far as actually being cared for in the hospital?
So one of the things that we noticed once she was actually pronounced brain dead, some of the things were removed from her, and she was actually lifted up in a different position, and she looked more at peace than she had when we first went in the hospital. So it changed. We actually made a note in ourselves that there just seems to be a difference in the room now that we've made that decision. There wasn't anything that we felt uncomfortable about. There wasn't anything that that we really struggled with. We actually felt more at peace once the decision was made and once more things were pulled off of her. She just looked better in the room. So
would you say that it was that she was peaceful or comfortable?
Yeah, I would.
Did you meet any of our staff?
I did not.
You didn't? Okay.
No.
Okay.
I wasn't involved very much.
I know.
They,
Mom did it.
Mom protected me.
She
so.
did. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. Can you think of anything else that you would want? If you were talking to a mom or a dad or a sister in real time today,
Mm-hmm.
who had just told Jenna, I don't know, I need more time. What would your final thoughts be for them?
This is the most selfless gift you can ever give. Your loved one is not going to die today if you say yes to organ donation. They will live on. They will have a legacy. They will change the lives of so many people. Please consider doing organ donation. It's an amazing experience, especially if you get to meet those recipients. It will change you, and it'll help you so much in your grief journey.
You mean that?
I know, I was thinking the same thing.
Thank you.
Do you guys want to introduce yourself one more time?
Yes, yes.
Adjusting
And
audio
with-
levels a little bit.
I also, when you introduced her, you didn't, for a while, you didn't say that she was your sister. Like you said
Oh, okay.
she was your sister. So could
Mhm,
you
that'd be
make
good.
sure that you tell us who you are and who we're talking about?
Okay. My name is Krista Spurgeon, and my sister Jennifer Spurgeon was an organ donor in 2009.
In this question, pretend like she wasn't an organ donor, or that, the gifts of organ donation were not okay. Tell me, so it sounds to me like you have a little bit of regret that she wasn't able to be a bone donor. So
Mhm.
if you were talking to a family that was saying no to tissue as all gifts, tell me what you would tell them to encourage why tissue would be so meaningful as an additional gift.
This actually happened where they had said yes to tissue donation, and she wasn't able to give her tissues for some reason that I don't understand. But tissue is just as meaningful to me and to her. I know it would have been. Just helping people in any way that you can is a wonderful thing. It's very selfless. And you don't know how many people you're going to affect by one decision. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're able to take yourself there. I would really appreciate it.
Alrighty.
I think that you've maybe seen our comfort videos before. Have you seen one?
I don't
Maybe,
remember.
I know, you've probably seen quite a few things that we've done.
Yeah.
The very fluffy word that we use is comfort video. I don't use that word because to me this is a nudge, and that's the word that's really best suited for me when I know that the family advocates are working with a family that just can't quite say yes, or really needs to be challenged in why aren't you saying yes. And so this video is meant for us to say, would you be willing to hear the words of another family member about donation? So it's kind of a hard video because we are wanting to express this can happen, and here's how. So Jenna's gonna ask you some questions. She works with families all the time, and so she knows in her heart what she wishes she could have a family see and hear, and so her questions will kind of just help us. So,
Okay.
do you have
We're
a
rolling. So.
picture to them?
I didn't
Okay,
bring
no
one.
worries.
So of course, the
Yeah.
only one I've ever submitted was the one for his, the memory thing and
Okay.
stuff. So
No
they've.
worries. No worries. Lovely.
We're good.
Okay.
And during the interview, just you can pretend like the cameras aren't here. I know it's kind of hard with all the lights and stuff,
Yeah.
but you can just look at Jenna and just talk, have a conversation.
Right.
If you want to just tell us a little bit about your loved one and kind of what brought you to talking to us.
Well, I've part of what brought me with Sam was he had Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. So we spent a lifetime of not knowing when he began to walk for how long he was going to walk, and at the time when he wasn't able to walk. And throughout his life, he always felt like he had there were people out there worse off than him, and he always wanted to do everything he could to help people. So and one of the things that brought me to you is he asked me one day if I ever thought he could be an organ donor, and I think he learned that from school where they taught it in health class or something. So I thought, well, I don't know. I'd have to check into it, and of course I never did. And as things went on later that year, we ended up with him in the hospital, and that's when I was approached by the question of for him to be an organ donor. And of course it wasn't much of a hesitation when I said, yeah, you know, where do I sign? So that's where it pretty much began with him.
Tell me a little bit about that conversation when you were approached for organ donation in the hospital.
I was very appreciative of the compassion when they approached me. They come and ask me, and then they step back to give me that moment, and I really appreciated that. Although it wasn't long for my decision, like I said, but I was grateful for that moment.
What was the hardest part about that question?
I don't know for me if it was hard. I mean, I was still in the grips of him not going to survive, and then just the thought that he had brought that to me and he was being considered for it, that just was overwhelming with me that he was even considered.
Whenever someone approached you, the family advocate approached you for donation, was that after a conversation that you had with a doctor, or kind of tell me about the timeline of that at the hospital?
It was after a conversation with the doctor, and he told us that he obviously wasn't going to make it, and that even if he did, he wasn't going to come back to possibility to the way he was. So it was definitely after the fact. So.
Did you have to slow down and wait a bit then before donation recovery occurred?
It was we waited. The time was slow, so I really didn't watch a clock. We had our time. The family had our time with him that day. People come in that we called that said and told him that if you want to have your moments, now's it. Of course, when they did the procedure, it was later on that night. So it's.
Some families worry that they just can't bear more pain in the time that it takes for donation to happen. Would you have any thoughts to them about that time and what it meant for your family or what your family was able to do that would encourage them to wait that time?
The opportunity to spend time with family and have our goodbyes, that was very important. And one of the biggest things I remember when I left the hospital from him that time was leaning over and kissing him, and how warm and peaceful he was.
Did donation or the process of donation and your family being there with him, do you feel like that changed the way that you grieved or how you felt or thought after you said that final goodbye?
It really started the process with. I've thought about this many a times, and how, in fact, recently, about how I grieved for him and other people that I've lost throughout. You know, of course, him being the son, it was a lot harder. So, but I really don't know how to answer that question to really.
Did donation help in your grief process? And if so, if there was any way that it helped, can you talk about that?
Yeah, I would say it has helped greatly in my process, because knowing that I did something that he would have wanted me to do, to be able to help people, you know, and dealing with what I dealt with the disease, it's just, it's helped me greatly, you know. And
If he hadn't asked you about donations, so say he hadn't heard about it, about school, if you and him had never had a donation discussion, talk about how that decision would have gone, or what you would have felt, or how you would have made a decision if you'd never spoken about organ donation at home.
it probably would have taken me longer to decide, because, well, we spent his lifetime of ups and downs, and we were like 2 years out of the hospital with him as it was from pneumonia and stuff. But I think it would have been a time-consuming thing, but it would have probably still been the same result, just because knowing that he wanted to help others.
What would you tell another family, kind of in that situation, that had never had that conversation or were struggling with saying yes to donation? What would be something that you would want them to know?
To really sit and think about your loved one and what they represented, and how they would really feel making a decision like that. It's not an easy decision to make, but it is something that will pay itself forward many times in the future, like it has me.
But could I interject? I know that his donation had a positive, like, rippling effect in your own family.
Oh, yes. In fact, it was just a few years ago that my nephew passed away from, he was hit while he was on his scooter, and he became an organ donor. And it was all because of Sam. A few days before this accident, he had told his parents that if anything happened to him, he wanted to be like his cousin Sam and be an organ donor.
That's beautiful.
I didn't know that.
When you made the decision for your son to be an organ donor, was it easy for the rest of the family to understand, or was there anybody that struggled with that decision?
I don't remember anybody having any struggles or with. In fact, I remember telling my mother that just imagine that somebody seeing the world through Sam's eyes when they use these corneas or whatever. Just the fact that hopefully somebody could see the gentle soul that they came from. So.
Took our breath away with that one.
Is there anything else just that you would really want to tell a family from a parent's perspective, losing a child, that you would just want them to know?
Losing a child is a very hard thing, and he was 17, so it was very hard. But they would never regret this decision of doing this. Sam has never been forgotten as a hero, and they will always be a hero.
I couldn't agree more. I got nothing else.
Introduction, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
That's it.
so could you go back and introduce yourself, and who your son is, and make the statement that he was able to be a donor?
And maybe look right into the camera for this one. That's what you did last time. I really liked it.
Okay. My name is Kirk Wolf. My son, my donor hero, is Sam Wolf. And he was 17 and 2 days into his senior year when he became a hero.
I have a question for you. After the decision was made, can you walk us through the process of seeing him being cared for as a donor hero and what that meant to your family?
Before recovery, so from the yes to
Well, there was always a stir of people coming in and out, and I would have to say that the nurses took very well care of him. They took the time to make sure he was comfortable, whether it was straightening a blanket, getting the socks put on his feet right, making sure he shift him into bed, make sure he's comfortable, and that was very, very appreciative. And I just, the compassion that was there. I even had nurses that come down from when he was in the hospital a couple years before. They come down from their floor to say their piece with him because they remembered him. That's how much of an impression he made.
I'm good if you
I
guys are
think, yeah, you did a really
Thank
nice
you so
job.
much.
Camera and gave your introduction. If you were to look straight in the camera and give a final thought to somebody who says, should I do this?
You would have no regrets at making the decision. It'll be a beautiful outcome. The person that will change your life.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
In and he's checking stuff, and Courtney walks in behind him, and she's like just kind of watching, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm training her name Courtney. And Sherry just kind of looked at him and was like, he was like, oh, I am so sorry. And
That looks like-
she looked so confused, like she was like
And
deer
then
in the
Dave
headlights.
told her, is like, Courtney is the lady that, put Emma here.
And then so she's like flipping her badge around, I'm so sorry, like yeah, just
Yeah,
whatever.
that's actually what she said, because you can call me anything else.
Whatever name you want to call me, that's fine. So they go back to the back room, and Dave busts up laughing. He goes, she hates you! And just he said he rolled for 20 minutes on the floor
Oh
laughing
yeah, he
at
was
her.
like, she effing hates you!
And that's exactly the giggle, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, it was. He told us that night before he left when we were out.
Yeah, we never knew about that until we went to Mitchell's.
It was right
In
before-
Fort Wayne before he
moved to
left.
Connecticut.
Yeah, when he went to Connecticut.
Yeah,
We knew we loved him the first time he walked in, and I was wondering, what is he doing? What is he doing? And I always ask questions, and he would say, so this is, I think he called it Lasix, whatever takes the fluid off. And he goes, this is going to kind of take some of that puffiness away and a little bit of the swelling and stuff that you're seeing. He goes, but I can't do anything about that girl's thighs. I was like, he's our people. She was a chunky monkey. That was great. That's what I knew. He's our people.
I love that.
All right, I'm wrong.
You're rolling. You look
Yep.
good too. You guys look great. I know you got the email that said come casual, be real people. And
Yeah.
so you guys look perfect. I love it.
So I think we can kind of just start out and say if you would be willing to tell us your story and a little bit about your daughter and how you kind of came to know us.
And no fluff. No prettiness.
Very
It's the
real, yeah. Very real answers.
Real people taught you.
Do you
know
want to
what-
start or do you want me to start?
Doesn't matter. I can start.
Okay.
You guys can look at general during this.
Okay.
You can kind of ignore
Okay.
the cameras.
All right. So April 2018, our daughter suffered a traumatic brain injury, which later left her brain dead. So we were sitting at the hospital, and they were running tests, and they did a brain surgery to try and relieve pressure and everything. And so that Thursday night, they came in and told us that she was brain dead, but they still had to run another test the next morning to confirm it, because there had to be 2 tests within 12 hours, I think it is. And so we're just kind of sitting there, and the doctors are talking to us, and out of nowhere, Sherry just looks over and is like, well, was she able to donate? And
I had asked him back in the room that they take you to. I had asked him, give it to me in percentages. Like, when is she going to wake up? What are the chances? And he says, I'm not God, but I will give her 0 as a doctor. I said, okay. And that's when we had to have the hard talk. I didn't know Nick was already thinking about organ donation in his mind, but I'm the blunt one that said it out loud. Because immediately I just kind of thought, there's another mom that's crying just as hard as me, that is not praying for my daughter to die, but praying for a miracle for their kid. So here we are sitting on one. She's right here, and we can't change it. The doctor said there's nothing we can do. We can't change it. We can sit here and hope and pray, and every little twitch that happens, we can imagine that it's really her trying to come back, but the doctors say it's not. So we just decided, why waste any more time? See if we can save other kids. I think it was Emma telling us what to do myself.
Yeah.
I'm not that giving of a person.
Yeah. But yeah, it was very weird. She just kind of blurted it out, and I was sitting there, and she goes, well, I guess I should have asked you first. And I was like, I was thinking the same thing. Like, there's no reason not to. We can't save her, so save somebody else. Let them have their kid. If it saves their kid, then they're not in our position anymore. So.
And then we met Tracy.
Yep. Tracy came in, went through the first round of questions, and kind of gave us the rundown on what would happen. And then the next day, Autumn came in and went through all the paperwork and questionnaires and everything with us. We come to find out the third day we were there, the older lady that was just a couple rooms down, my dad had started talking to her husband in the lobby, and they ended up making her an organ donor because of our story. So there ended up being 2 cases at the same time at Parkview. Through our story and just the families talking and mingling in the lobby. So the third day, I believe it was Kelly.
Yeah.
She kind of had to split her time between the families. So by then...
Oh, Kim Renfro.
Yeah, Kim helped out a lot.
Kim was going in between 2 families, and she said she just couldn't do it anymore. She needed to spend more time with that family for some reason.
Yeah. She actually had a personal connection with the family.
Yep.
So ended up just running all the tests, getting everything ready, and then it was Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening. Jess came down from South Bend and sat with us all night and sat with us through the surgery, and
it was so neat the order in which we met all of the Indiana Donor Network reps. We first met Tracy, whose mom was a donor. And so she knows what it's like to start the paperwork and be responsible, and she had that connection. And then we met Autumn, who was a mother of young children as well, and from the same town that all of this happened in. And ironically, her husband, who is a police officer, was first on the scene when Emma was killed, and actually took our daughter from the babysitter's hands and tried to save her. And then, ironically, we were given Autumn, who ended up saving other lives through Emma. So she finished the job that he started. Yeah. And then when we met Jess, it was amazing that Jess was the one that sat with us during the organ surgery, because she was, what was her title? She was a coroner.
Yeah.
She was a coroner.
No,
And here-
Undertaker.
And here I am. Well, she worked in the coroner's office, I think.
Yeah, I forget.
Her and Autumn both did, I think. But her working in the coroner's office and understanding the body and the organs and what happens to them, as a mom, I said, I want to see her one last time. And she had the foresight to go, no, you don't. No, let's just remember her the last time you saw her. And later went into more in-depth detail about why it wasn't a good idea that I did that. And I'm so thankful that she was there and was able to clinically tell us very good reasons why that wasn't a good idea. So throughout all stages of our organ donation, we were with the right people at the right time. It just kind of happened. We met the right coordinators at the right time that helped us through every stage of it.
Some families worry that after authorization, from authorization to recovery, that their child or their loved one is not going to be kept comfortable or cared for, that they're going to be suffering during that waiting period. What would you tell a family specifically who is worried, I can't wait any longer, I need to let them go? What would you tell them?
There actually was a moment like that for us where, because of Emma's brainstem injury, she could not regulate her own temperature. So there was a warming blanket that was placed on her, and it was a bit loud and discerning, and her heart rate kept going up and down, and her blood pressure, and it just finally got to where I'm like, I don't know how much longer I can do this. Like, I'm about to just give up. And they assured us, and they told us that I need to know, like, the clinical reasons. I ask a bunch of questions, and I get the proper answers, and I see the films, and the blood flow stopped, and there was no brain activity. So I knew if she can't regulate her own temperature, then she's not feeling anything. And at any point that I expressed any kind of almost reservation or anything, I was told, we can stop this right now, Mama. They always said, Mama, we can stop this right now, and we can hand her to you, and whatever happens will happen, and she can go peacefully in your arms if that's what you want. We are not going to keep going if you're not comfortable. And the doctors were very, very good at explaining everything, that she is comfortable. She is not aware of what's going on. And we just kind of had to reach down into our beliefs and know that her soul was already where it was supposed to be. This was just her body. Her body can save lives. Her soul was already with us and where it was supposed to be. So you just have to kind of keep in mind that Emma's physical journey here was over, but yet it wasn't, because there were still other people that needed to be saved. And it was just so worth it. It's so worth it to not be selfish. We could have unplugged everything and held her, but then that would have led to two other parents having to unplug everything and hold their kids. And it just wasn't fair. If one person can save two, why do all three have to go?
You lost an entire part of your world. And I think that sometimes when families get approached for donation, they worry that we don't understand. Talk to me about that loss and the ability to work with us and whether or not we understood.
I think the great thing about the family services coordinators that you guys have is there's always a connection. They've either been related to a donor, or they know a donor, or they've been in the program for so long they've become family with donor families over the years.
Or know a recipient.
Yeah, or they know a recipient and they see the other side of it and how life-saving and life-changing it can be. They can relate. It's not clinical. It's not like speaking to a doctor. Speaking to a doctor was completely different. Working with Indiana Donor Network was personal. From the moment we walked in and we met Tracy, she hugged us. the minute that Autumn walked into the room, the first thing she did before she even made eye contact with us is she looked at Emma laying on the bed. And she closed her eyes and she smiled a bit, and you could see her start to tear up because she realized this is a little life that she is about to try and honor. And she felt privileged to honor Emma and do what she could for her. This was not a job for her. This wasn't going to work today. And I know some days I'm sure it probably feels like it, but I'm gonna look at you. I think when it becomes a job, that's when they always remember the ones that really hit home. And I'm proud that Emma's one of the ones that they took home with them that day. And I know that there's no guarantee that you're ever going to meet the recipients of the organ donors, of the organs that your loved one donated to. There's never a guarantee. We were never guaranteed. We were told we could write, and the letters would get sent to their office, and then their office would pass them on. And if they decided to write back, but this was all just a gift from our heart. It could never be a guarantee. But I think we were blessed to be able to meet the 2 little kids that Emma Grace saved so that we could show people, you're never guaranteed this, but I promise this is what it looks like. This is what organ donation looks like. There are grateful families and grateful kids and grateful recipients on the other side. I promise it looks just like our story. It's just not your story, but you can write letters and you can hope that they write back, but you just have to know in your heart you did the right thing and look at stories like ours and know that that's what it looks like.
Like Sherry was saying about it being personal, Autumn was with us on Friday, and on Saturday she was already off and having dinner with her family in Fort Wayne and came back to the hospital to check on us. Had no reason to be there other than she wanted to come and check on us and see how we were doing and how everything was going. And you know, she left her family in the car sitting outside for like a half an hour just to come and see us. So, you know, it's little stuff like that, you know, these people have become lifelong friends, and it's why we're advocates and we do everything we can to help out.
Yeah.
Talk to me about how donation has changed you as a parent now and the loss that your daughter experiences.
Well, I'm getting better at dropping off my kids to people named Courtney.
We did that.
Yeah.
that was kind of an ironic twist.
Tell me what donation gave to her as a big sister.
I would say
Something to be proud of.
Yeah, it's
Instead of just the anger that someone killed her little sister, she has something to be proud of. And that's how it saved us as well. I've always said organ donation kept me out of prison. She was killed on 4/12, and it took 412 days to make an arrest. And because we had wonderful people with Indiana Donor Network keeping in contact with us and keeping us involved in events and things that honor donor heroes and just checking in on us and making sure that we're doing okay and letting us know where we can go to get help and where we can send Addison for help and the different family therapies that they are in contact with. It really helped for us to be able to concentrate on something positive rather than something negative. We're never going to forget how Emma Grace died, and we're never going to forget what happened that day. But what happened 3 days later is even more important, and she saved lives. So it gives us something to look forward to each year, is to celebrate April 16th instead of grieving on April 13th. We now celebrate on April 16th because that's when other kids got their lives saved.
And Autumn told us she believes that Addie was the first one in Fort Wayne to get a heartbeat bear out of the office.
Yeah.
So she takes that heartbeat bear with her everywhere. It has one of the
So
Emma shirts on it. It's got the scarf. And, you know, people ask her, and she has, at 8 years old, has no problem just laying it out that her little sister was a donor and saved lives, and is just
She's made a lot of waitresses at Bob Evans cry.
Yeah. And, I mean, it's probably had a bigger impact on people than us trying to advocate, because
Yeah.
here's this little
Kids don't
8-year-old
lie.
that, you know, is talking about it and is blunt and lays it out, and people are just like, oh, okay, like, well, that's really cool, you know, like, and then they ask us more about the story, and then they see her tattoos and
Yeah, I didn't
everything.
get this because I didn't want anybody to ask me any questions.
It,
Indiana Donor Network means so much to us that I got the heartbeat bear tattooed on me and donate life and the organs that she was able to donate, her liver, her heart, and her kidney. So this is her story, along with the dragonflies that she appears with all the time, and the Superman scrub cap that the surgical nurse on our case wore and gave to us. It's literally on me forever to talk about her and her organ donation story, and the next will be to get this sleeve covered with the recipients and their story and start to talk about what it's like to be on the other side of it for recipients and how grateful they are. And we have a couple of more kids now. They call us Mom and Dad. Their parents refer to us as, this is your other mom and dad. Well, Mommy Sherry, because Icelin's mom is Dominican and Puerto Rican, so we are Mommy Sherry and Papi Nick.
our little Moana.
Yes, she looks just like Moana.
So, and then Deacon that got her liver is a little hillbilly boy from North Carolina.
He should be a poster child for John Deere.
Yeah. He's his mom's Native American, and so, you know, very tight-knit community.
Yes.
And we got there, and lots of tears, lots of hugs.
They cleared out the fire station for us when we showed up to meet them for the first time, and their entire church and community cooked all day long to meet us.
Just
And
like
we had a
great big
hero's welcome.
family reunion.
They had pictures of Emma everywhere in there. It was a hero's welcome.
Yeah. And then when we got to Delaware to meet Iceline and her family, we actually met them at the hospital and got to meet everybody on their side. So we knew everybody from our side and their side, plus got to hang out with them.
We got to meet the surgeon.
Yep. And then Addison's birthday happened to fall on that Friday. We were there with them. So they had cake made and had everything ready for Addison.
They threw Addison a birthday party.
And we went and saw Frozen 2 because it had just come out. And it was just, again, like another, just the families going to hang out. They were so grateful that their kids got the gifts and they got to know us, that it's...
We got lucky
talk
that
about-
they were not shy about it.
Yeah.
Some recipients' families, I'm sure, are reserved and don't want their business out there. But I promise they are grateful. They are grateful nonetheless. They may not write. They may not reach out. But they're alive. How can they not be grateful? Of course they are. So if they don't write, I would tell people not to be discouraged. Just know you gave it with a great heart, and it was received with a great heart.
Aaron, I really like Sherry telling a tattoo story. Could you see? I didn't know on your end. Could you see her showing her tattoos? Okay, cool.
Yeah, I did a little bit. Maybe if you want to show it one more time.
Yeah.
I can get
Could you do it one more? Yeah, I love her. Tell us.
Maybe just talk about it one more time.
This is the heartbeat bear that we received from Indiana Donor Network at the hospital. Carries a heartbeat of Emma Grace in it, and it was given to our then 4-year-old Addison. And the entire story of Emma Grace's organ donation history, the Donate Life symbol, her heart that she was able to donate to Iceline, her liver to Deacon, and the kidney recipient was an older lady that we have not been in contact with, but I'm sure her grandchildren are very grateful. And a saying that I actually wrote that morning, you're like coming up for fresh air. It's like I was drowning and you saved me. I wrote it down that morning, hours before I got the phone call that she had been gone. And then a little personal tribute. We've got her walking up the stairs and the stone wall broken to signify time stopped the day that she was gone. And everywhere we go, people will say, "Are you in the medical field?" Well, kind of. My daughter was an organ donor, and this is how we tell the story. And I kind of give people a quick rundown of what the tattoo means. And if they ask more questions, then I give them the entire story. And they always leave with an Emma Grace bracelet. Whenever I leave the house, I usually have several in my purse, my pocket. If my band is playing at the bar, I wear several on each hand, and I pass them out to people. And even on stage, I say, "I know you're having fun drinking tonight, and I want everyone to be safe, but save some liver for the next guy." And I always ask people if they have a heart on their license to take a moment during the night and make sure that they have the heart on their license, that they're organ donors, because we want them to get home safe. But just in case they don't, I'm going to be a little selfish and ask that they're organ donors.
One of the things that Autumn and Jenna both will say to me when they call me after an approach is, "This family is going to regret it. They're so close to a yes, and I'm hurting because I know they're going to regret it. They're going to later realize they should have said yes." So if you could answer that question, tell me, would you have regretted saying if you hadn't
absolutely.
Talk to me about
Not a doubt in my mind we'd regret it. Just in our case, actually getting to meet and see the kids that she got to save and how well they're doing, and just getting to watch them grow up just like Emma would have grown up. Having birthdays, Aislinn got her heart transplant on her first birthday. So, she probably wouldn't have gotten a second birthday. Deacon may not have made it to his first birthday. He was 8 months old when he got her liver. And just, we got lucky we're able to see it, but being able to see it and tell our story and giving people like a point of reference of what happens on the other side. I mean, people can talk about it and say everything, but we're the living proof of, we've gotten to see it and see these kids grow up. They're both going to be in school soon. The first days of school, we get videos and pictures from the family all the time of how well they're doing, and the family trips that they take to the beach or to the store, or anything that happens that's funny.
They remember Emma Grace every day. Every day that they wake up and they look at their children, they remember our child every single day, and they never take it for granted. Never. I will get random messages from either of the moms and just say, "God bless you for what you guys did. I got to wake up and make eggs for Deacon this morning, and that's just such a blessing." And if you don't ever get to meet the recipients, that's okay too, because you just know that your loved one is living on. And our kid she was killed 7 days before her first birthday. I sent out birthday invitations the morning of her death. So she didn't get a first birthday, but she did. Because the first pictures we got were of Aislinn sitting on the table with a picture of Emma Grace that we had sent them, celebrating what they thought might have been right around Emma's birthday. They didn't know when her birthday was, but they knew how old the child was that donated to them, and that her birthday was going to be in April sometime. So without even having talked to us, they were celebrating us. They knew that somebody somewhere was having a really rough day, and they wanted to honor that gift. So even if you never hear back, know that there are moments where they stare up at the sunshine and they know that they can feel it because of you. And they get to graduate high school or see their grandkids walk across the stage because of you. They're going to have all of those milestones, even if you're not there to see it. And it sucks that someone had to die for those things to happen. But what's the alternative? 2 people are dead? It's not fair to think, well, just because my kid can't learn to ride a bike, why does theirs get to? Because my kid existed. That's why theirs gets to. It kind of makes my kid a badass.
So some families, especially with pediatric approach, you know, they're in a, let me take that back. A lot of families are in a really angry place. And I know you know what that feels like.
Oh, yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about taking anger and devastation and making it something else?
We didn't even want to go to any grief counseling groups because I flat out said, I don't care about anybody else's dead kid. I only care about mine. I was mad at the world. It's not fair. It's all you can really try and concentrate on is just knowing that your person is a hero. Your person is a hero. And especially kids. It's never fair when a child dies. When a young person dies, it's never fair. You can never rationalize it. It's out of order. You should never, caskets shouldn't come in that size. It's unethical. But it happens. And being able to tell the story forever and knowing that your child will go on forever. The people who receive the organs will tell the story of your child forever. It's the ripple that never ends. When you sign the paperwork, you kind of drop your kid's name in the ocean, and it starts this ripple, and their name just keeps rippling and rippling and rippling. And Emma Grace's name is going to be echoed forever now.
I mean, the way I kind of looked at it and have told people is, Emma may not have gotten her first birthday or went to school or anything like that, but Iceline and Deacon, I get to see it all through them now. We're lucky enough that the parents involve us in just about everything, so we get those pictures of, I didn't get to walk her down the aisle, I didn't get to do all these things, and I get to see it all through them. I still get to live it out with them.
It's hard to be angry at somebody else living. Maybe a little jealous. I'm jealous. I'm jealous all the time. And I tell them when I'm feeling jealous. I'm jealous that they get to go to the beach and we live on the lake and we don't get that. And I'm jealous of the birthday parties and their hectic, busy lives. I'm jealous. I want that hectic, busy life. But we can't change the path that we were given. We can just try and lay gold over it the best we can. She was our golden egg. You can't be mad at somebody else being alive. It's hard. I wouldn't call it anger. Try to replace anger with jealousy. It's okay to be jealous. It's okay to be envious. But to be mad at somebody else being alive, that's selfish. And you don't want to be selfish.
Saying yes to donation is, what does it require inside of you? So, outside of Emma Grace and what you wanted to have happen, what does it take for someone to say yes?
Enough love. You just gotta have enough love in your heart to want to honor.
I've always kind of had a weird sense of humor about it because I've been a donor since I got my driver's license at 16, and it was just kind of if I'm in the position, I'm not going to use it anymore. Why can't somebody else have it and, get to live their life out? God forbid I could walk out the door today and something happened and, my story here on earth is over, but somebody else's can continue because of it. And there's so many people that are grateful on the other side that, it may not be any fault of their own. They're in the position they're in, and then that fixes it, and they get to go on and watch kids grow up, or go to school, go do anything with their life. especially with our case, with it being kids, you know, who knows? One of them could be president someday. One of them could cure cancer. You never know what's
Our
on the
heart
other
could
side.
be in the White House.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many possibilities with what these other people's lives can continue to do that it's...
I mean, what if Deacon grows up to be a pillar of organ donation?
Yeah.
You know, what if he creates some mini liver, like
Yeah.
on Grey's Anatomy?
Yeah. I mean,
you know, he could,
the
what if he
possibility...
does something because he's so grateful for his gift?
Yeah. The possibilities are so endless with what the recipients can do with their lives afterwards that, I mean, for me, it's always been a no-brainer.
I think too many people get stuck on what physically happens to your loved one's body. I think too many people try to picture what organ donation looks like. And instead of thinking about what happens to their body, think about what happens at the coroner's office and at the funeral home. Nobody wants to think what it's like to be embalmed and prepped for their funeral. But it's going to happen. It's going to happen to every single one of us. And we just took a little bit of the job away, I guess.
Yeah.
So if somebody
Just made it
was
easier.
worried that their loved one was going to be cut on, so Jenna
I think
and
that's a
Autumn-
lot of people's concerns is, oh my God, they're gonna butcher my child, they're gonna butcher my loved one, and cut them open, and it's such a delicate procedure. They do it with love, they do it honoring, and it's just like when they have the moment of silence in the OR, they talk about who is on the table. And you get to tell them a little bit of something about who they're working with. And it was so awesome to be able to just share little funny limericks and little booty popping stories of our fat little girl that was laying on the table, because as hard as it was for us to give her up and watch her go down into the line that you can't cross any further, imagine the people in the OR. This is not their favorite day. They're looking at a child and they're thinking of their children, their grandchildren, their neighbors' kids. They don't want to have to do this, but they're doing it because the end result is saving someone just as small. That's how they do it. This isn't ambulance chasing. This isn't American Horror Story where they're slicing your person open. It's done with great care, and if you want a prayer said, they say a prayer. If you want a music play, they play music. They talk about who's on the table before they take the organs for life-saving procedures. It's a miracle. You have to look at it as a miracle that it can even be done. You can't think about it as they're robbing me. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to put it on a jar next to the urn? I mean, what are you going to do with your kid's heart? It's going to go into the ground, and someone else is going to be sitting in your seat tomorrow pulling the plug on their kid because a heart didn't come in time.
You mentioned something earlier when you were talking about Tracy and when you did the paperwork with her, the responsibility that you felt completing that paperwork and making that decision. One of the conversations that I have a lot with families is them feeling the weight and responsibility of that decision if their loved one isn't registered and making that decision for them. Could you speak a little bit just about that and maybe what you would say to a family grappling with that decision, making that decision and that responsibility?
I mean, for us, it was a way to continue her legacy. I mean, it really wasn't a hard decision for us. I mean, we weren't necessarily in the same
So
position.
what if it was your brother tomorrow
But, yeah,
and you didn't know
it-
his decision? How would you feel about having to make that decision for him?
It was... I don't know. I'm trying to... It's hard to compare it to what we did.
You'd have to think, why wouldn't they? Is there a reason they would not want to save someone else's life and be honored as a hero? I can't think of anyone who wouldn't want to go down being a hero.
I mean, for
It
us,
is a hard decision to make that on behalf of, especially another adult.
Yeah.
It's a hard decision, and you want to respect their wishes, and you want to make sure you're not crossing any boundaries and disappointing anyone. You think so much during those last few moments. I just want to make them proud. You made them a hero. I think they're pretty proud about that.
Yeah.
I would be.
That's a good way to put it.
You said something earlier that I don't think I've ever heard another donor family say, and you said it was a gift of the heart. Yes. Can you say it again?
Yeah. Just when you're thinking about the other people that are crying and really praying for a miracle, and they don't want your loved one to die. Nobody wished for my daughter to die. They wished for a miracle. And the only thing I could think of is we could stop it, and that was the best gift to give them. It truly was a gift from my heart to their family. And for one family, literally a heart. It really was a gift of the heart.
Yeah.
I would love for one of the Nedge videos to end with a family looking straight into the camera and telling another family to just say yes. And I don't like to ask people to say something that's not them. But I know that is you guys.
If it was socially acceptable, I'd tattoo it on my
I
forehead.
know you would just say yes. But
Screaming from the stage like some rampant
Right.
heavy metal.
could either one of you tell a family to say yes?
Yeah. Do it at the same time.
Yeah.
Ready?
Yep.
1, 2, 3.
Just say yes.
Thank you. You guys have this incredible journey that I always get to watch it from afar. I get to, Autumn texts me updates every time she gets to interact with you guys. So it was really cool for me to meet Addison because I felt like I got to step in your little world a little
She
bit.
has a whole personality of
Oh,
her
man.
own.
We were busy planning a holiday party yesterday, so you gotta tell her we have some fun times in the
Oh,
works.
she's
Awesome.
excited to
Yeah.
make Christmas ornaments again.
Yeah.
We did that a couple years ago with Autumn, and that was so much fun.
Yeah.
I don't know if she told you, but my goal is for a couple of them, including her, to help us make a grief workbook too, that they can be the little authors of. So
Nice.
I think it's fun. Jenna and I got to meet you today, so thank you for your story. It's very raw, and that's what I want to share with other families is just the truth and
there's
in a way that they know this family has sat in my shoes. This is painful. and this
Have you
family
ever
has
seen
been-
Emma?
I have seen, so I have to tell you, Dave is, you guys have met him and we've talked about him a little. I have seen her through him.
Okay.
Knowing who she was in connection to you. He is so proud to have been part of her story. And like when I say that I'm privileged, chunky is right.
Yes. Very chunky.
When I say I'm privileged to work with a family, he is so privileged to have worked with you guys.
I think you guys are actually one of the reasons why Dave wanted to dabble in family services.
I would completely agree.
Because
Aw.
your story, which is part of why he dabbles across the country now in other OPOs, is
Yes.
I
he
feel like
quite
you
does.
guys, he's always loved pediatrics and he's always loved being a bedside
He's so
nurse,
good
but
at
you
it.
guys-
And she'll send me pictures and say, "This is what we're doing today."
Can you look at the camera with Emma Grace's photo? Can you introduce Emma Grace to the camera?
Actually, Erin, do you need them to say their names as well? I think
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
have
do it.
I have to make the call, so I'll let you guys do all that.
That's Deacon. That was
Oh,
about.
he's a cool dude.
He is the literally the coolest freaking kid ever. Oh my gosh.
That was for
And his
4th of
little
July.
accent. He's got this little redneck accent.
It's
And he'll say, Daddy, I want it. I want another pop, please. Oh my God. All of the redneckery.
Him and his dad, they went to see the dinosaurs at the little traveling Jurassic Park thing.
He is cute.
Yeah. We finally got a boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you guys want to look, just right.
Hey, you hold up the other one of her, and I'm going to hold up this one. You hold up the big mouth. Yeah, that one.
So, what are we doing?
I don't know.
First, maybe just hold up some pictures. I'll get that. Yeah, that's good. All right. And then I don't need the photos necessarily, but if you could just say your name and just kind of a brief how you're connected to donation, just right into the camera.
Just like we did in the other room.
Yeah.
Sherry Lehman, my 11-month-old daughter, became an organ donor April 13th of 2018.
My name's Nick Lehman, and Emma Grace was also my daughter.
Perfect. That's awesome. Thank you, guys.
You talked a lot about the heartbeat bears, and this is a question for Aaron.
Yeah.
Do you want to have them explain in their own words what a heartbeat bear is?
Sure.
Or that
Yeah,
you
that's a
can
good
probably
idea.
Put up like a graphic, then you can just.
Yeah. So while we were actually taking a quick nap at Ronald McDonald House, Autumn had actually snuck the bear in, and her and Dave actually took the Doppler and recorded Emma's heartbeat on a little recorder. I don't know what it's exactly called.
It's
but
just about a
little-
2-inch
little recording.
diameter little music box
speaker.
kind of thing, a little speaker, and when you
And-
press inside the bear, you hear the heartbeat.
Yeah, whenever you give it a hug or squeeze it, the Doppler of her heartbeat comes on, and Addison takes it everywhere. We've had to wash it umpteen times because she takes it everywhere with her, and it's meant a lot to her for a long
Given
time.
her something to hold on to, since she doesn't
Yeah.
have her sister as her roommate anymore. She's often felt very lonely, and she clings to
Yeah.
that bear as if it was her.
It was her therapy for a long time. You would just be sitting in the house and
You could hear it.
you would
Like,
just
"Oh."
randomly hear it, and you knew she was in there squeezing on it and hugging on it.
I've hugged it a few times myself.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Is there anything else?
I don't think so, unless you guys have anything else that you would just want to very honestly and candidly tell a family who is kind of in the position of, do we say yes?
I'm an open book. I will talk you through anything. I've been there. I've done it. Been through hell and back with it. We argued in the hospital room multiple times just because of our situation and what we were going through with everything else. But this was a no doubt. We needed to do it. It gave us something positive in our lives to look forward to. And it was probably one of the best things we've ever done.
It won't solve everything, but it sure does help. It helps curb the anger a little bit. The anger never goes away, and the sadness and the grief. I mean, grief never ends because love never dies. It's just a never-ending circle of grief and love, and you grieve as much as you love, and we loved a lot, so we've grieved very hard. But just do it. Just make the decision. It's something you will grow to be extremely proud of. It's almost an instant reward.
Yeah.
It's almost instantly knowing when you see the helicopter or the plane take off, and you know, wow, there she goes. She's saving a life right now. She's taking her first plane ride.
Yeah.
It's a gratification. It does not take away the anger. It does not take away the grief, but it gives you something to hold on to really hard on the tough days, and there will be tough days.
The light at the end of the tunnel. There's hope that something really good came out of it. makes it a little easier to live with.
That's a good way of putting it, yeah. Makes it a little easier to live with. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so,
Yeah,
so much.
no problem.
Behind a camera and speak to a family that Jenna's speaking to and nudge them in a direction that we think is good for their family, which is to say yes to donation. So no fanciness in the conversation. We're gonna ask you some questions, and we just want what comes to the top of your mind
Okay.
and your answers. But first, if you could introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about your son and how he became a donor.
Okay. Ready?
Go.
Yep, might be ready.
Hi, I'm David Martin, and I'm with a donor family because of my son Aaron. Aaron Martin, he passed away recently. We just had the 4th anniversary. It was July 13th, 2017, and it was an accidental drug overdose, and so there's struggles from that. He was had issues in his life and didn't make good choices, but many of us don't, and his just happened to be fatal. And we thought it was the end, and then his mother happened to connect with Indiana Donor Network, and time I got to the hospital, I wasn't aware donation was going to be possible, and so I was taken back a little because we were being told, we thought it was a one-day thing. We were going there, say our goodbyes, and go back home that evening. And because we had little ones at home, and then we found out it could take 24 to 48 hours. And but once we got very comfortable with the idea that they could preserve his organs, some of them, and if all went well as far as finding recipients, and it was a long time because what was available and going through a weekend and stuff, it was hard to just make some connections, even donate for science and studies and stuff. It was just hard, and so it was really down to the last minute, last day that they found a heart recipient, and then it just fell in place. They had so they were able to use 3 men. They used both kidneys, liver, and heart. So I find great pleasure and comfort in knowing part of our son is out there and helping others live their life. And I'm not sure about the middle gentleman, but I know it spanned from one guy was 66 years old and greatly extended his life, and the guy who got the heart was 35 years old and 2 little kids. So I find great comfort in knowing that he's living his life with his children. And so that's, at the hospital, we wasn't sure whether Aaron was a donor or not. And so I would greatly encourage that with your family, that your close ones, let them know your choice and find out what theirs are. And the thing was that his wallet and driver's license wasn't readily available, so we didn't have that access. But then we were told that as his mother spoke for him, his biological mother, she could make that choice, and so it was made, and I appreciate it, and we've just moved on from there.
Were you involved in the conversation about donation, or was it his biological mother that had that conversation with a family advocate?
To get it started, it was his biological mother that made the contact. But once the advocate got there, came from Evansville over to Madison, Indiana, and my wife and I was involved all the way through that, the conversation and meeting and what they would do and steps to take, and the memory things that they would take, the handprint and stuff like that. And I could always remember when I was told that would ink up his hand and make a print on it, and I'm like, I don't believe I would want that, you know. And I tell Courtney in different ones now that now it's my most prized artwork is his handprint. So yeah, we were involved all the way through every decision, other than the initial phone call, and so it was young lady Brianna out of Evansville, and she's the perfect face of Indiana Donor Network. Comforting to us, and educational and compassionate, and lifelong friend. I mean, I still see her every once in a while in Evansville at different events and stuff. So she made a real difference in our lives.
Talk about that a little bit. It sounds to me like there was some peacefulness that was provided through donation. Talk to me about when you say it made a difference in our lives. Was that in the grief process? And if so, tell me about that.
Yeah, of course, you know, there was a day when there wasn't social media and Facebook, but now once we made these connections and you look and you find their name on Facebook and you connect and everything, and so you get to know them a little bit better. And when you share a picture and an anniversary, they'll comment, I can't believe that was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And especially the two nurses from here that was very instrumental in finding the recipients, and mainly the heart recipient that was the last one they was able to secure someone to use the heart. And that young man was actually in New York is where Aaron's heart went to. And but just getting messages, whether text or text messages or whatever, you know, thinking of you today, you know, and just people remembering other than just us, and Aaron's memory doesn't just pass away because people that never met him think fondly of him. And one of the and I just shared in there again, we'll go, when we first came here to this building for some comfort, wife and I came up here and seeking comfort, and we met with Courtney, and that was an experience I wasn't expecting, because she was very compassionate and wanted to hear about our hero, and just after sharing pictures with her and talking about him, she said, I would have liked Aaron. So, you know, that just made me feel good, because it's not just a process of getting a job done. There's real compassion involved, and we get that every anniversary messages from those nurses, and I consider them sisters now, and they're just like, you know, they never had the chance to speak to Aaron, but they were there in his last days on this earth. They were there providing a service to help him share his gifts, and so that, and just knowing them and others are out there, even the ER nurse, the head ER nurse, the night he had come in, and I know she's not connected with the Indiana Donor, but I never even understood. We met her there, and she expressed how sorrowful she was, and we understood that. But then it became more than that, and it was a while before I caught on. And finally, I figured it out that her goal was to save his life that night, and I just never gave it that much thought. We considered he was gone when he got there, brain wise, and but her life, her passion, her training, everything. When she told us, by morning she wanted him alive. You know, she tried to bring him back to life, and it's really heartening to me that wasn't a job. That was, you know, I don't know, it's love, you know, to care a total stranger. Oh, he made a mistake. Why would I care about him? No judgment. Just, I never considered that night. To me, it was more of a to stabilize situation, but not to her. So that's really good because still have contact with her, and so.
Some of the families that I talk to really feel the weight of making that decision to move forward with donation for their loved one if they don't have the heart on their license, if they aren't a registered donor. So could you talk a little bit about in knowing your son and making that decision of him becoming an organ donor?
Okay. Yeah. With not being certain whether he'd ever made that decision, we'd never had the conversation. He was 28 years old, and he's still my child, but those are things you didn't follow up on or ask. I mean, he either did it or didn't do it. You know, that was his choice. And so that information wasn't readily available. But when his mother made the contact and then we got involved, it takes your focus to, let's try to bring something positive out of this, other than we're shutting the machine off, he's gone, go home. This gave us an extension of his life, I feel, because his heart, kidneys, and liver are still functioning somewhere. We know of at least Indiana, Ohio, and New York. And I find comfort in that. And like I said, the way we were presented and walked through couldn't have been any better. Just such compassion, and took it slow and easy, and we never got overwhelmed. And but without knowing those words from Aaron that that's what he wanted to do, it was hard to make the decision to say yes, go ahead and do it. But the whole family is very comforted by that decision that was made. We never dealt with any negative comments or response. Well, I don't know how you did that. I wouldn't have done that. Just our friends and family felt the same way. So we felt comfort in that we didn't choose something for him that maybe he wouldn't have wanted. His mother and I felt we knew him well enough that he was very compassionate, and that's something he would be comforted in. So it made it an easy decision for us, just knowing our son.
You said something earlier about thinking that you would come in, say your goodbyes, and we would go to surgery, but it ended up being a little longer than you were expected. Tell me about that. A lot of my family struggle with the timeline, and so if you could just speak to that and speak to them on that timeline and what that gave you, or the struggles that you had with it.
Yeah, the whole evening started off when we thought we were going to be going right back, and we had started fostering, and just 10 days before he passed away, we'd brought 2 little ones into our house. And the day they came, the little boy turned 3, and 2 days later, so his sister turned 2, and then 10 days later, we get the news that Aaron has passed. And it was a rough day. Any of that news is always going to be rough, but I had just gotten to work when his mother called me, and it was unbelievable. You know, of course, you ask, "Are you kidding?" You know, and it's very overwhelming. And a coworker, I was told later, I kind of freaked him out because I grabbed him and hugged him and sobbed that I just lost my son, you know, and he didn't know what was going on. And but I had to go home then, and my wife was getting ready to go out the door and go to work, and I had to inform her what news I had, that he was gone. And but Aaron had some struggles before, and so there was a few issues at times that maybe it was a close call, but this time to say this is final, this is over, and that's how it was worded to us, was that, or to me, was that he's gone. We can have him unhook everything, or you can come say your goodbyes. And we said, well, of course, we're going to come over. So that started the day. So we didn't take anything with us. It was about a 3-hour drive. And then when we realized what all it was going to involve, we weren't going to leave aside once we got there. But just through a really great network of friends and church family and stuff, a guy calls, and him and his wife, like 9 o'clock at night, said, "We'll get your stuff and run over." And because we hadn't even taken medication with us and stuff, because we didn't know it was going to be needed. And so from the very beginning, we had this network of friends that just said, "We can do this." And my mother-in-law stepped up with the kids, and my wife had coworkers that would take a break, give my mother-in-law a break with the kids and help watch them. And so we had we were very new at that because it had only been 10 days, but we were comforted that we knew they were going to be taken care of, and we were responsible for it. So, like I said, then these friends started saying, "Well, I can do this and I can do that." And there was a hotel nearby, and some family members stayed and sat in the lounge and stuff. But when we seen how long of a process it could take, we waited for a while. And when we seen they were having trouble finding recipients, we chose to go to the hotel, and we ended up staying there 2 nights. And it's just, you start telling your story. I mean, that's who you are right then. You're a grieving parent of child is, looking for organ recipients. And so we had shared our story. And so the day we left, we stayed there 2 nights, and the hotel manager said, "You don't owe us anything. We'll comp those nights, and you guys got enough going through enough." So that was really good. And then a lot of the was just the 2 nurses we had. One is still here and one has moved on, and they were open at any time. They had a room set up for them to do their work in, and so I mean it could be 1:30 in the morning, and I mean they were working, they weren't sleeping, and we could knock on the door, "Come on in." And so like I said, I consider them sisters, and they were very compassionate, very educational, and they liked that we wanted to know. I like to know how things work, and so once the decision was made and we were in process, okay, tell me more about it. How will they transport the organs? What will they, at what point, do they do this or that? And so we were given a real heads up over the day that they would harvest the organs. And so there was some comfort in that, with a better understanding what was going to take place once we didn't see him anymore and they wheeled him away. I had peace knowing step by step what they were probably doing down there. And so that helped. And just the team that came from the Indiana Donor Network, they're again very compassionate, and it was just a pleasure to see how they conducted themselves around Aaron. Just nothing but respect, and filling out the card of a remembrance card, and I forget the actual name of it.
Moment of silence.
Moment of silence. I'm sorry. And we had all the family. I don't know. There's probably about 15 of us in there gathered around, and all had written. Might even been 2 cards to get it all on there, and trust in them to hand them that card that they really were going to remember and honor him, and read those comments from the family members brought a lot of comfort and peace to us.
Can you tell me about any moments of frustration that might have happened for you over the weekend as they were having difficulty finding the recipients, and maybe it was taking one day longer than you wanted? Or tell me about any of that you felt.
Yeah, it was sad in the beginning. I wasn't agreeable to it because I was shocked. It was just shock. We switched gears from we're going to go say goodbye. We probably wasn't going to be there an hour, turn around and go back home. And so then we're told, well, this could take 48 hours. So I don't adjust well to that. And so I was never upset about it, but I was taken back. And, you know, then the process of, well, do we drive back through the night and get what we need? And then, you know, make 6-hour drive through the night to get ourselves and get back there, hoping nothing happened in that time we were gone. But like I say, with the great friends that took care of things for us, we did, you know, we were able to stay there. But that was the only thing, and I wouldn't even say very many people dealt with it other than me. Maybe it was the time because my mind was processing 2 new kids in our home. We're responsible. We're trying to get them settled. Aaron has 2 brothers, and you know, comforting them and trying to make sure you say the right thing to them because it's a very trying time and things can be said wrong and upset somebody. And so it's very critical in picking and choosing your emotions and your what you say. But it was all very peaceful. From the hospital staff to the social worker there at the hospital to the Indiana Donor Network, nurses and staff and anybody that we had talked to. The time went, and it's I just see it as a very peaceful time that we spent with Aaron, and even in the condition he was in, we could still hold his hand, and we not sure what all you want, but a funny story was I asked the nurse to come and check his vitals, and I said, this is like one of those midnight things, and I said, would I be allowed to listen? Could I borrow that so I can hear his heartbeat? Because I don't know that I'd ever heard it since, you know, he was in his mother's womb, you know, and hearing it at doctor's appointments. I don't know if I'd ever heard it since then. And they said yes, and she handed them to me. I put them on. I listened. I don't hear it. Well, just this. I'm sorry. Well, I got a little frustrated then because I'm like, it's okay. Let's stop, because we tried about 3 times. Well, eventually she realized she was listening to him right, but when she handed them to me, they weren't being turned around. So I guess they got to face a certain way in your ears, and so that's why I wasn't hearing it. Once she realized that, we turned around, then I got to hear it, and I'll cherish that moment forever, the wee hours of the night, and just hearing it. And we've been blessed now that the last meeting I was here, it was brought up, Courtney, about the comfort bears they have, and we'd had a recording of Aaron's, and so even 3.5 years later, they made us some bears, and so the family has this. You know, Courtney said, "You tell me how many." You know, I'm like, "Oh, I can't. There's so many." And but Aaron had he wasn't biological father, but he was daddy to a little boy, and so including him and my siblings and grandmothers and stuff like that, we all have our. As a matter of fact, I'm meeting my brother here in Indy today to give him his. He doesn't know anything about him, so. That we have these bears with Aaron's heartbeat, and so I'm going to get here about 4 o'clock. We want to give him his. So, still spreading the love. Aaron loved his family, and I'm sorry I got off subject. What was it?
It's awesome.
What is something, you said something very, very fantastic. What would you tell someone who was in your position, who felt that immediate taken aback feeling when they're told our process may take 24 to 48 hours? What would you want someone to have said to you?
Well, I think they said about anything they could, knowing this could take a while, but checking in every once in a while and hearing we still don't have any contact, we're not hearing back from this, that. It it touched me a little bit. And so many groups of our family weren't always together at the same time and hearing the same thing. So things that I heard that probably upset me, and I'm not talking an angry and upset, emotionally upset, was he'll give these parts away and nobody wants them. But it was explained by the nurses that it was just a fluke of the time and what was going on, and that more likely his liver and hearts and stuff, and liver and kidneys were probably in pretty good shape, and a lot of the scientific things wanted more diseased ones to, examine and research, and so we weren't getting any outreach from that. So once the initial contact was made, most of our contact was with the nurses on duty at that time, and they were very comforting that you knew that they were, anything possible they could do, they were trying to find somebody. And they would report to us. They would never give us false hope or anything. But that, I can't think of anything different could have been done other than just that reassurance that we're trying. And the reality of it may not happen. We may not find anybody. We may not find recipients. And I'm glad they said that, because if we thought all along within 48 hours they're going to find somebody, we pass these gifts along, everything's okay. But if we've been thinking that and then they couldn't have found anybody recipient, that to me that would have been devastating. And but we were prepared because it was open and honest. We're going to try, but there's no guarantee. No guarantee we can find recipients. And we were just blessed with the way it did work out. We were treated very well and always kept informed. And so we do have the peace of the knowledge of that the gifts were received and appreciated. And 4 years later, still going strong to our knowledge. So.
Sorry, but we're gonna have to wrap up soon.
Yeah. I appreciate it. I think you did a great job of telling the story, so it's beautiful.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And you'll edit and cut all around till it makes sense.
Of course.
You did great.
Yes.
Really? Okay.
Yes.